Christmas Day, London, 1191. A 15-year-old squire runs through the streets. His brother forgot his sword. The tournament is starting. The inn is locked. He sees a sword sticking out of a stone in a churchyard. He grabs it, pulls it out, runs back to the tournament, and destroys his entire life because that sword has been stuck in that stone for months. Hundreds of men tried to pull it. Lords, knights, the strongest warriors in Britain. All failed. The inscription carved into the stone: "Whoever pulls this sword is the rightful king of Britain." That boy is Arthur, and he just became king. Before that sword left the stone, we need to understand how it got there and what came before it. Because Arthur wasn't born in a palace. He was conceived through rape. His father used magic to deceive another man's wife. Arthur wasn't raised knowing he was special. Merlin stole him from his mother's arms and hid him with a minor knight. Arthur grew up thinking he was a bastard, a nobody. And when Arthur pulled that sword, 6 rebel kings raised 50,000 soldiers to crush him to keep his throne. Arthur will kill 10,000 men in a single battle. Watch a valley floor turn red with their blood. He'll see his magic sword shatter in a duel. Realize that destiny isn't enough. He'll make a bargain with something not quite human that rises from a lake. She'll give him a sword that never breaks and a scabbard that makes him immortal for a price he doesn't understand. And when Merlin tells him, "You'll be killed by your own son," Arthur will order a massacre. 43 babies murdered, drowned on his command. But one will survive. Mordred, Arthur's son, the boy who will grow up to destroy everything. This is the origin of King Arthur. Not the Disney version, not the noble legend. This is about rape, deception, slaughter, and sins that echo through generations. If you believe the darkest origins of our greatest legends deserve to be told, if you want to understand the blood beneath the mythology, subscribe to the Midnight Archives and hit that like button. Your support lets us keep digging up these buried truths. Tonight, we're going back to the beginning, to the rape that created a king, to the sword that chose a boy, to the massacre that failed to prevent destiny. Welcome to the Midnight Archives.
There once was a king named Uther Pendragon, king of Britain, powerful, respected, ruthless. He attended a feast at Tintagel Castle, hosted by the Duke of Cornwall, a political gathering, an alliance between powerful men. And that's where Uther saw her, Igraine, the Duke's wife, beautiful, intelligent, graceful, everything a noble woman should be, and completely, utterly unavailable. She was married, happily married by all accounts, to the Duke of Cornwall, one of Uther's own vassals. It didn't matter. Uther couldn't stop looking at her. During the feast, his eyes followed her everywhere. When she spoke to other guests, when she laughed at her husband's jokes, when she moved through the hall. People noticed. The Duke noticed. Igraine noticed. She felt Uther's eyes on her like hands. Intrusive. Possessive wrong. After the feast, the Duke took his wife and left Tintagel immediately. Didn't even say a proper goodbye to Uther, just packed up in the middle of the night and rode for his own castle he knew. He recognized the look in Uther's eyes, the look of a man who takes what he wants. The Duke locked Igraine in his castle, posted guards, protected his wife. But you can't lock a door against a king who wants in. Uther summoned his advisor, Merlin, the wizard, the prophet, the manipulator. "I need her," Uther said. "Not I want her. Not "I love her," need, like she was a possession he'd been denied. "She's married," Merlin replied, "and her husband has locked her away. You can't reach her." "I don't care! Find a way!" Merlin looked at the king, this pathetic, obsessed man, and saw an opportunity. "I can help you," Merlin said slowly. "I can get you into that castle, into her bed. She'll never know it's not her husband." Uther leaned forward. "How?" "Magic. I'll disguise you. Make you look exactly like the Duke, sound like him. She'll think you're her husband returning home." "Yes, do it," Merlin smiled. "But there's a price. There's always a price." "What do you want?" "If she conceives a child, and she will conceive, you'll give that child to me the moment it's born. No questions asked, no hesitation." Uther barely paused. "Fine, I agree. Just get me to her." He sold his unborn child for one night with another man's wife. Merlin had his weapon. He just had to wait for it to be born. It's night, dark. The Duke's castle is locked tight, guards on the walls. But Uther and Merlin ride up to the gates anyway. Merlin's hands move in the air, words in languages that hurt to hear. The air shimmers, and Uther's face changes. His hair darkens, his features shift, his voice deepens. In seconds, he looks exactly like the Duke of Cornwall. The guards see their lord returning, open the gates without question. Uther rides into the courtyard, dismounts, walks into his own castle like he owns it, because right now he does. At least everyone thinks he does. Servants bow. "My lord, we weren't expecting you back so soon." "Change of plans," Uther says with the Duke's voice. "Where is my wife?" "In her chambers, my lord." Uther climbs the stairs. His heart is pounding, not from fear, from anticipation. He opens the door to Igraine's chambers. She's there, reading by candlelight. She looks up, sees her husband, smiles. "You came back," she says warmly. "I'm so glad. I didn't like how we left things with Uther." "I couldn't stay away from you," Uther says, and it's the only true thing he'll say all night. Igraine rises, comes to him, kisses him. She thinks she's kissing her husband. She's kissing the man who wanted her so badly, he used magic to take her. What happens next is rape. Even though she consents, even though she thinks she's sleeping with her husband, it's rape through deception. And from this rape, Arthur is conceived. Meanwhile, miles away, the real Duke of Cornwall is fighting. He got word that Uther had raised an army, was marching on his lands, so the Duke rode out with his knights to defend his territory. The battle is brutal, short. The Duke fights bravely, and he dies, sword through the throat, falls in the mud, bleeds out while his men retreat. The same night Arthur is conceived, Arthur's legal father dies. Merlin planned it that way. Of course he did. Uther wakes before dawn. The spell is wearing off. He slips out of Igraine's bed while she's still sleeping. By the time she wakes, he's gone. A messenger arrives an hour later. "My lady, terrible news. The Duke, your husband, he fell in battle last night." Igraine collapses. "No, that's impossible. He was here. He was in my bed last night." "My lady, the Duke died miles from here. In battle against King Uther. He never came home." She looks at the rumpled bed, at the sheets that still smell like the man she thought was her husband. Who was in her bed last night? Uther waits a respectful amount of time, a few weeks. Then he proposes marriage to Igraine. She's a widow now, alone, vulnerable. Her husband's lands are forfeit. She has no protection. And she's pregnant. She knows she's pregnant. With a child conceived the night her husband died. The night someone who wasn't her husband was in her bed. She doesn't understand what happened, but she knows something terrible occurred. Uther offers marriage, security, protection, a future for her unborn child. What choice does she have? She accepts. They marry. Uther is kind to her in his way, almost loving. She tries to convince herself she's safe now, but she knows. Deep down, she knows. The man she married is the man who raped her. 9 months later, Igraine gives birth. A boy, healthy, strong, beautiful. She holds him for maybe an hour, then Merlin comes. "The bargain," he says to Uther. "You promised." Uther nods, turns to Igraine. The child must be taken for his own safety. There are those who would kill him to prevent him from inheriting my throne. No. Igraine clutches the baby tighter. You can't. He's mine. He's all I have left of... She stops. Almost said the Duke. Her real husband. The man she thought fathered this child. "Give him to Merlin," Uther says. It's not a request. Guards take the baby from her arms. She's screaming, begging, reaching for her child. Merlin takes the infant, wraps him in a blanket, walks out of the room. Igraine never sees her son again. Igraine lives the rest of her life as Uther's queen. She has other children with him, daughters. She tries to love them, tries to forget the son who was taken, but she can't. Every year on his birthday, she wonders, is he alive? Where is he? Does he know who his mother is? She'll die never knowing. Arthur is raised, never knowing she exists. Merlin made sure of that. Arthur was conceived through rape disguised as marriage. His mother was tricked. His legal father was murdered. His birth father sold him before he was born. Merlin took him, raised him in secret, shaped him into a weapon, and that weapon was about to pull a sword from a stone. The baby Merlin took from Igraine doesn't go to a palace, doesn't grow up knowing he's special. He goes to a minor knight named Sir Ector, a good man, loyal, trustworthy, not ambitious, not powerful, forgettable, perfect. "Raise this boy as your own," Merlin tells him. "Tell no one who he really is, not even the boy himself." "Who is he?" Sir Ector asks. "That doesn't matter yet. Just raise him well. Teach him to fight, to read, to be honorable. When the time comes, you'll understand." Sir Ector takes the child, names him Arthur, raises him alongside his own son, Kay. Arthur grows up thinking he's a bastard. Sir Ector's bastard, probably, or maybe from some affair. The servants whisper about it sometimes. But Sir Ector treats him kindly, almost like a real son. Almost. Arthur is trained as a squire. He learns to care for armor, saddle horses, serve at table, the work of a knight's attendant. He's good at it, quick to learn, strong for his age, but nothing exceptional, nothing that marks him as special. Kay is Sir Ector's legitimate son, the heir. He'll be knighted someday, inherit lands, have status. Arthur will be, what? A household knight, if he's lucky, or maybe just a permanent squire, a servant. He doesn't complain. This is the life he was born into, or so he thinks. But sometimes Merlin visits, always unexpected, always watching Arthur with those strange, knowing eyes. "The boy is progressing well," Merlin says to Sir Ector. "He's a good lad, works hard, doesn't cause trouble." "Good. Keep him that way. His time is coming." Arthur overhears these conversations sometimes, wonders what Merlin means, wonders why this famous wizard keeps visiting their modest household, but he never asks. You don't question wizards. While Arthur grows up in obscurity, Britain is tearing itself apart. King Uther died when Arthur was young. No clear heir, no succession plan, just a power vacuum. Multiple lords claim the throne, each with armies, each with ambitions. The country fractures. Constant warfare, petty kings fighting petty kings. Villages burned, crops destroyed, people starving. This is the world Arthur grows up in. A world where might makes right, where whoever has the biggest army gets to call themselves king. Nobody believes in destiny anymore. Nobody thinks God will send them a rightful ruler. They've given up on that fantasy. The Archbishop of Canterbury, a man of genuine faith in a faithless time, refuses to accept this chaos. He consults with Merlin. Britain needs a king, a real king, not just whoever murders their way to the throne. Britain has a king, Merlin says. He just doesn't know it yet. Then reveal him. Not yet, but soon. We need a sign, something undeniable, something that looks like divine intervention. They plan together, the wizard and the priest, manipulation disguised as miracle. Merlin knows magic, real magic, the kind that can enchant a sword, embed it in stone, make it unmovable except by one specific person. The kind of magic that looks like the hand of God. Christmas Eve, London, the great cathedral. People arrive for midnight mass, and they find something that wasn't there yesterday. In the churchyard, driven into a massive stone anvil, a sword. The steel is beautiful, the hilt is gold. The blade catches the light like it's glowing. Carved into the stone in letters of gold. Whoso pulleth out this sword from this stone and anvil is rightwise born King of all Britain. People crowd around it, staring, touching the stone, testing the sword. It doesn't budge, not even slightly. Word spreads through the city, through the countryside, across Britain. A sword in a stone. A test from God. Whoever pulls it out is the true king. Every lord in Britain comes to try. The strongest knights, the most powerful nobles, the wealthiest landowners. One by one, they step up, grasp the hilt, pull, nothing. Some try brute force, pulling until their faces turn purple, until their hands bleed. Some try tricks, oiling the blade, heating the stone, using levers. Nothing works. Days pass. Weeks. The sword stays in the stone. People start to lose faith. Maybe it's a trick. Maybe it's impossible. Maybe there is no true king. The Archbishop insists they keep trying. The right person hasn't attempted it yet. God's chosen will come. But fewer people come each day. The crowd dwindles. The excitement fades. The sword in the stone becomes just a curiosity, a tourist attraction, a symbol of failed hope. And then Arthur arrives. It's late December. Kay has just been knighted. He's 19, proud, ready to prove himself. There's a tournament in London, he tells his father. I want to compete, show what I can do. Sir Ector agrees. Arthur, you'll come as Kay's squire, take care of his equipment. Arthur is 15 now, still a squire, still a servant, still nobody special. "Yes, sir," he says. They ride to London, Kay on a destrier, Arthur on a palfrey. The difference in their stations, clear in everything they do. London is crowded, packed with knights and nobles here for the tournament. The inns are full, the streets are chaos. Arthur sets up Kay's tent, polishes his armor, prepares his weapons, does everything a good squire should do. He doesn't see the sword in the stone, doesn't even know it exists yet. Morning, cold, grey sky threatening rain. Kay is nervous. His first tournament as a knight. He needs to make a good showing. Arthur helps him into his armor piece by piece, checking every strap, every buckle. "Your sword, sir," Arthur says, reaching for Kay's scabbard. Empty. Kay's face goes white. "Where's my sword? I thought you had it. You're my squire. You're supposed to have it." Arthur's mind races. The sword must be back at their lodgings. He forgot it. His fault. "I'll get it," Arthur says. "Wait here. I'll be right back." He runs through the crowded streets, back toward their inn. Arthur reaches the inn, pulls on the door. Locked. Everyone's at the tournament. The innkeeper locked up. Won't be back for hours. Arthur pounds on the door. Nothing. He looks around frantically. Kay needs a sword. The tournament is starting. Arthur failed in his duty. He needs to find a sword. Any sword, anywhere. And then he sees it. There's a churchyard nearby. And in that churchyard, a sword sticking out of a stone. Arthur doesn't know the story, doesn't know about the prophecy, or the failed attempts, or the divine test. He just sees an available sword. "I'll borrow it," he thinks. "Kay needs a weapon. I'll bring it back after the tournament." He walks into the churchyard up to the stone. The sword's hilt is wrapped in leather, comfortable, well balanced. Arthur puts his hand on it, pulls. The sword slides out of the stone like it's been waiting for him. Smooth, easy, no resistance at all. He looks at the blade. Beautiful craftsmanship, much nicer than Kay's actual sword. Kay will be pleased, Arthur thinks. He doesn't notice the inscription on the stone, doesn't see the words about right-wise kings. He just wraps the sword in cloth and runs back to the tournament. Arthur arrives breathless, hands the wrapped sword to Kay. Kay unwraps it, stares. He recognizes this sword. Everyone in London has seen it. The sword in the stone. The test from God. His mind races. If he claims he pulled it. "Father!" Kay calls to Sir Ector. "Father, look! I pulled the sword from the stone. I'm the rightful king." Sir Ector goes pale. "Kay, did you truly pull that sword yourself?" Kay hesitates. His father's eyes are boring into him. Sir Ector knows his son, knows when he's lying. Arthur brought it to me," Kay admits. Sir Ector turns to Arthur. "Where did you get this?" "From the churchyard. Kay forgot his sword and I couldn't get into the inn, so I borrowed that one from the stone. Is something wrong?" Sir Ector looks at the boy he's raised. The boy who just did the impossible without realizing it. "Come with me," he says. "Both of you." Sir Ector leads them to the churchyard. A small crowd is still there. People who've been watching the sword, hoping someone will pull it. They see Sir Ector carrying the sword. Their eyes go wide. "Who pulled it?" someone shouts. "Who got the sword out?" Sir Ector ignores them. He walks to the stone. The empty stone where the sword had been for weeks. He looks at Arthur. "Put it back." "What?" "Put the sword back in the stone." Arthur is confused but obeys. He pushes the blade back into the stone. It slides in perfectly, like it never left. Now pull it out again, Sir Ector says. Why? I already... Do it. Arthur shrugs, grabs the hilt, pulls. The sword comes free, easy, effortless. The crowd gasps. Sir Ector's face is white. Again, put it back. Arthur pushes it in, pulls it out, pushes it in, pulls it out. Every time, effortless, like pulling a knife from a sheath. Father, what's happening? Kay asks. Sir Ector doesn't answer. He's staring at Arthur, then slowly he kneels. Father? Kay is confused, frightened. Why are you kneeling? Because he's not my son, Sir Ector says quietly. He's my king. The crowd has grown. Word is spreading. Someone pulled the sword. The boy is pulling it again and again. The Archbishop arrives, sees Arthur holding the sword, sees Sir Ector kneeling. What is your name, boy? The Archbishop asks. Arthur, Your Grace. And you pulled this sword from the stone? Yes, Your Grace. I needed a sword for my master and... He's not your master anymore, the Archbishop interrupts. If you pulled this sword, you're the rightful king of Britain. Arthur laughs, nervous. That's impossible. I'm just a squire, a bastard. I'm nobody. Sir Ector speaks up. You're not my bastard, Arthur. Merlin brought you to me when you were a baby. Told me to raise you in secret. I never knew who you really were. But I think you're Uther's son. The crowd is murmuring now, growing larger, more people arriving every second. Uther had no son, someone says. He had a son. Merlin's voice cuts through the crowd. He's there. Of course he's there. He planned this. A son conceived before his marriage. A son hidden for his own protection. A son who was always meant to be king. He walks up to Arthur, smiles. Hello, Arthur. It's time you learned who you really are. The nobles in the crowd are skeptical, hostile. He's just a boy, someone shouts. Probably a trick. Let a real knight try again, another demands. Maybe the sword is loose now. A massive knight steps forward, grabs the sword that Arthur just placed back in the stone, pulls. Nothing. The sword doesn't budge. Arthur pulls it out again. Easy. The knight tries. Can't move it. Arthur does it again. One by one, nobles try. All fail. Arthur succeeds every time. But it's the common people who decide it. God has chosen, someone yells from the crowd. A king chosen by God, not by bloodlines. Not by who has the biggest army. He's one of us. Raised as a commoner, he'll understand us. The crowd swells. Hundreds of people, thousands, all cheering. Arthur! King Arthur! The nobles look nervous. The people have chosen, and there are a lot more common people than nobles. The Archbishop raises his hands. The sword has chosen. God has chosen. Arthur will be king. That night, Arthur sits alone in a room the Archbishop gave him. He's shaking. They're calling him king. They want to crown him, put a country on his shoulders. He's 15 years old. He doesn't know how to rule, doesn't know politics or strategy or diplomacy. He just wanted to get Kay a sword. Sir Ector comes to see him. You're afraid. I can't do this, Arthur says. I don't know how to be king. No one does, not at first. Sir Ector sits beside him. But you pulled that sword for a reason. I pulled it because Kay needed a weapon. Maybe. Or maybe that was just the excuse that got you there. Sir Ector puts a hand on Arthur's shoulder. I've raised you for 15 years. I know what you are. You're kind, honest, brave. You'll be a good king. The
The nobles won't accept me. No, Sir Ector agrees. They won't, not willingly. You'll have to make them. Arthur looks at him. How? The same way every king makes people follow them. Through strength, through victory, through fear, if necessary. I don't want to rule through fear. Then rule through justice, through fairness, through being the king Britain needs, not the king the nobles want. Sir Ector stands. But make no mistake, Arthur. They will test you, they will challenge you, and you will have to fight. He's right. The war is coming. The Archbishop crowns Arthur in the great cathedral in London. It should be a moment of unity, of celebration, of hope. Instead, it's tense, dangerous. Half the nobles in Britain refuse to attend. They won't acknowledge this boy as king. The ones who do attend are mostly minor lords, people without their own ambitions for the throne, people who are willing to wait and see. The common people pack the cathedral. They're ecstatic. They believe God chose Arthur to save them. Arthur kneels before the Archbishop. The crown is placed on his head. Behold your king, the Archbishop proclaims. Arthur, by the grace of God, King of all Britain. The common people cheer. The nobles are silent. The feast after the coronation is awkward, hostile. Several powerful lords are there, not to celebrate, to challenge. King Lot of Orkney stands. I don't recognize this coronation. Arthur is a bastard, unknown parentage, no legitimate claim. King Nentres agrees. We will not bow to a boy raised as a commoner. King Carados. This is a trick by Merlin. The sword in the stone is enchantment, not divine will. King Uriens. Britain needs a real king, a proven warrior, not a child. King Anguish. We reject this coronation. King Mark. We will choose our own king the old way, through strength and blood right. 6 kings, 6 kingdoms, all rejecting Arthur's claim. The room is silent, everyone watching, waiting to see how this boy king will respond. Arthur stands. He's 15 years old, smaller than most men in the room, wearing a crown that feels too heavy. I didn't ask for this, he says. His voice is quiet but carries. I didn't scheme for this throne. I didn't murder for it. I pulled a sword from a stone because my brother needed a weapon. Exactly. King Lot sneers. You're nobody. A lucky commoner, not a king. Maybe, Arthur agrees, but the sword chose me. The Archbishop crowned me. The people accept me. That makes me king whether you like it or not. We don't accept you, Nentres says flatly. Then leave, Arthur says. Leave my kingdom. Rule your own lands. But if you raise arms against me, I'll defend my throne. It's a threat, from a 15-year-old to 6 experienced warlords. King Lot laughs. You'll defend your throne? You and what army? The army of Britain, Arthur says. Every man who's tired of watching you petty kings tear this country apart. Every soldier who wants a ruler chosen by God instead of by murder. Every person who believes in something more than whoever has the sharpest sword. Pretty words, Carados says. Words don't win wars. No, Arthur agrees, but righteous anger does, and Britain is very angry. The 6 kings leave the feast, leave London, ride back to their own territories, and they meet, form an alliance, pool their armies. King Lot becomes their leader. He's the most powerful, the most ruthless, the most experienced. We'll crush this boy, Lot says. Quickly, before he gains more support, show Britain that God's choice means nothing against steel. They gather their forces, knights, men-at-arms, mercenaries,
soldiers who fight for pay and plunder 50,000 men. The largest army Britain has seen in decades, all marching toward London, toward Arthur. Arthur has maybe 10,000 men, knights who believe in him, lords who decided to take a chance on the boy king, common soldiers inspired by the idea of a ruler chosen by God instead of by bloodline. It's not enough, not nearly enough. Merlin comes to Arthur's war room, maps spread across the table, Arthur staring at them with dead eyes. "We can't win," Arthur says flatly. 5-1 odds. Experienced commanders against me. I've never led an army in my life. "You've never done a lot of things," Merlin replies. "You'd never pulled a magic sword from a stone either. Until you did. That was different. This is war. Real war. Thousands of men are going to die." "Yes," Merlin agrees. "They are. The question is, which thousands? Yours or theirs?" Arthur looks up. "You're saying I should fight. I'm saying you don't have a choice. If you surrender, they'll kill you. If you run, they'll hunt you down. Your only option is to fight, and to win." "How? We're outnumbered 5-1. Merlin smiles. "Then we use strategy, terrain, surprise. Everything they won't expect from a boy king." He points to the map. "There's a place called Bedegraine, narrow valley, hills on both sides. We let them march into it, then hit them from above." "That's still 5-1. In a narrow valley, they can't bring all their numbers to bear. They'll be compressed, crowded, unable to maneuver, and we'll have the high ground." Arthur studies the map. "It could work. Maybe." "How many will die?" he asks quietly. "Thousands," Merlin says. "But better them than your men. Better them than you." Arthur is silent for a long moment. Then, "Send word to our forces. We march to Bedegraine." Arthur's army moves north, toward the narrow valley Merlin identified, toward Bedegraine. The men are nervous, most are young, many have never seen real battle. Arthur rides among them, talks to them, learns their names. "You're the king," Sir Ector tells him. "You should keep your distance, stay separate." "If I'm going to send them to die, I should at least know who they are," Arthur replies. The rebel army is moving too, 50,000 strong. They're not worried about strategy, not worried about terrain. Why would they be? They have the numbers. They'll just roll over Arthur's tiny force like a wave. King Lot is confident. This will be over in an afternoon. We'll be back home before winter. Dawn, October, cold. Bedegraine Valley stretches before Arthur's forces. Narrow, hills rising on both sides covered in trees. Arthur's men are positioned in those hills, hidden, waiting. Arthur is with them, wearing armor for the first time in his life. It's heavy, restrictive. He can barely move. "You'll get used to it," Kay tells him. Kay is here too, knighted now, fighting for his brother. Through the trees, they see the rebel army approaching. 50,000 men, armored knights, infantry, archers, baggage trains, stretching for miles. They march into the valley, confident, unsuspecting. Arthur watches them come. His heart is pounding so hard, he thinks it might break through his armor. "Wait," Merlin says beside him. "Not yet." The rebel army fills the valley, packed tight, shoulder to shoulder. They can barely maneuver. "Now," Merlin says. Arthur raises his sword. The sword from the stone brings it down. Horns blow from both sides of the valley. Arrows rain down, hundreds of them, thousands, falling into the packed mass of men below. Screaming starts immediately. Arthur's knights charge down the hillside, horses screaming, steel flashing. They hit the rebel flanks, smash into men who can't form proper lines because they're too crowded together. It's chaos. Immediate, total chaos. Men are slipping in mud and blood. Horses are trampling fallen soldiers. Arrows keep falling. Arthur charges with his men. He doesn't know what else to do, where else to be. He's never killed anyone before. That changes quickly. A rebel knight sees Arthur's crown, recognizes the boy king. He charges. Lance lowered. Arthur barely gets his shield up in time. The lance splinters against it. The impact nearly knocks Arthur from his saddle. The knight draws his sword, swings for Arthur's head. Arthur blocks. His arms are shaking from the impact. The knight swings again, pushing Arthur back. Arthur is purely defensive, blocking, dodging, no idea how to counterattack. "Fight back!" Kay screams from somewhere nearby. The knight raises his sword high, two-handed strike, meant to split Arthur's skull. Arthur doesn't think, just reacts. He thrusts upward. The sword from the stone drives into the knight's armpit, where the armor has a gap. The blade punches through, into the lung, out the back. The knight's eyes go wide. Blood bubbles at his lips. Arthur pulls the sword free. The knight falls. Arthur stares at the body, at the blood on his blade. He just killed a man. "Keep moving!" someone shouts. "Don't stop!" There's no time to process it. Another rebel is coming. Then another. Arthur fights, blocks, strikes, kills. He loses count. The battle lasts hours. The narrow valley becomes a slaughterhouse, literally. The ground is slick with blood. The grass is red. Bodies pile up. Men trip over corpses and get trampled. Wounded soldiers scream for help that won't come. Arthur is covered in blood. Most of it isn't his. Some of it is. Cuts on his arms, a gash across his cheek. But he's alive. He's killed more men than he can count. Lost his sword twice and had to retrieve it from bodies. Watched knights he spoke to this morning die screaming. This is war. Not noble, not glorious, just butchery. By midday, the rebel army breaks. They're losing, badly. The numbers don't matter in this terrain. Arthur's strategy worked. King Lot orders the retreat. What's left of his forces flee the valley. Behind them, thousands of bodies. Maybe 10,000 dead, maybe more. Hard to count when they're in pieces. Arthur's forces lost men too, maybe 2,000. Heavy losses for a smaller army, but they won. Arthur walks through the valley, stepping over bodies, looking at faces. These men died because he claimed a throne, because he pulled a sword. "This is the cost of being king," Merlin says beside him. "I didn't want this," Arthur says. His voice is hollow, distant. "No one ever wants this, but it's necessary. They challenged you. You had to respond. Thousands are dead. Yes, and thousands more will die in the years to come. Every king is built on bones, Arthur. At least you're building something worth the cost." Arthur looks at him. Is it? Is it worth this? That depends on what you do next, on what kind of king you become. Merlin gestures at the Valley of Corpses. You can let this break you, or you can let it teach you. The choice is yours. Arthur is silent for a long time. Then, the rebel kings, they'll regroup, attack again. Probably. They're wounded but not dead. Then we hunt them down. End this quickly before more people die. Merlin nods approvingly. Now you're thinking like a king. Over the next month, Arthur's forces hunt down the rebel armies. They're broken, demoralized. Their leaders are arguing among themselves. One by one, the rebel kings surrender. King Uriens submits first, kneels before Arthur. I was wrong to challenge you. You've proven your right to rule. King Anguish follows. Then Nentris, then Carados. King Lot holds out the longest, but eventually even he kneels. You've won, boy, Lot says. The word boy is still an insult, but he's kneeling. I acknowledge you as king. Arthur looks down at these men, these kings who raised 50,000 soldiers to kill him. He could execute them, would be justified. They're traitors, rebels, oath-breakers. But Merlin's words echo. What kind of king will you become? I accept your submission, Arthur says. Return to your lands, rule justly, and never raise arms against Britain's throne again. Lot looks surprised. You're letting us live. I'm giving you the chance to prove your loyalty. Don't make me regret it. Arthur is 16 years old. He's been king for 6 months. He's killed more men than he can count, watched thousands die for his crown. He's proven his right to rule through blood, through violence, through victory. The sword in the stone made him king. The Battle of Bedegraine made him a killer, and he's only just beginning. Arthur returns to London victorious. The rebel kings defeated, his throne secure. The people celebrate, feast, call him Arthur the Great, Arthur the Victorious. But Arthur can't celebrate, can't sleep, keeps seeing the faces of men he killed. Give it time, Sir Ector tells him. The first battle is always the hardest. Does it get easier? Killing? Sir Ector is quiet for a moment. Easier? No. More familiar, perhaps, but never easy. The day it becomes easy is the day you stop being a good man. Arthur isn't sure he's still a good man. Good men don't kill 10,000 people, but he's king, and kings do what's necessary. A few weeks after Bedegraine, a knight arrives at court. King Pellinore, a powerful lord from the north who didn't join the rebellion, but hasn't submitted to Arthur either. I challenge you, Pellinore announces. Single combat, to test whether you're truly worthy to be king. Arthur could refuse, could have Pellinore arrested for his insolence, but he's trying to prove himself, trying to show he's more than just a boy with a magic sword. I accept, Arthur says. Merlin tries to stop him. This is foolish. You're king. You don't need to prove anything to this man. Yes, Arthur says. I do. Morning. The courtyard of Arthur's castle. A crowd has gathered. Arthur and Pellinore face each other, both in full armor, both armed with swords and shields. First blood or to yield? The marshal asks. First blood, Arthur says. Pellinore smiles coldly. As you wish, boy king. They circle each other. Pellinore moves like a veteran fighter. Economical, efficient, dangerous. Arthur attacks first. A testing strike. Pellinore blocks easily, counters with a riposte that nearly takes Arthur's head off. They exchange blows, steel ringing against steel. Arthur is good, well-trained, fast for his age. But Pellinore is better, stronger, more experienced. A heavy overhead strike. Arthur blocks. His sword, the sword from the stone, takes the impact and shatters. The blade breaks. Clean snap. Half the sword falls to the ground. The crowd gasps. Arthur stares at the broken weapon in his hand. The sword that chose him. The symbol of his divine right. Broken. Pellinore doesn't hesitate. Slams his shield into Arthur's chest. Arthur goes down. Hard. The breath knocked out of him. Pellinore stands over him, sword raised. Yield! Arthur can't breathe, can't speak. I said yield! He yields! Merlin shouts from the crowd. The match is over! Pellinore lowers his sword, offers a hand to Arthur. Arthur takes it, lets Pellinore pull him to his feet. You fought well, Pellinore says, but you're not ready to face real warriors yet. Train more, then perhaps you'll be worthy of that crown. He walks away. Arthur stands in the courtyard, holding the broken remains of the sword in the stone. The sword that proved his divine right, his destiny, his worthiness, shattered. That night, Arthur sits alone in his chamber, the broken sword on the table in front of him. Merlin enters without knocking. Feeling sorry for yourself? The sword broke, Arthur says dully. The sword from the stone, the sign of God's favor. It's broken. It's a sword. Swords break. That's what they do when you hit things with them hard enough. It was supposed to be special. You are king, Merlin says. You don't need a magic sword to prove that. You proved it at Bedegraine. You proved it when 6 kings knelt to you. Then why did the sword break? Because it served its purpose. It got you out of that stone. It crowned you king. Its work is done. Merlin sits across from Arthur. But you still need a weapon. A real weapon. Something that won't break when you need it most. Where do I get such a weapon? Merlin smiles. I know a place. A lake. And a woman who lives there. She might help you. If the price is right. What price? That's between you and her. Come. We leave at dawn. They ride for 2 days. North. Into wild country. Places where few people live. The terrain becomes strange. Mist-covered hills. Dark forests. Water everywhere. Streams, marshes, pools that seem to watch you as you pass. Where are we going? Arthur asks. Somewhere old, Merlin replies. Somewhere that remembers the time before Rome, before Christ, before men thought they ruled this land. They ride in silence. Even the horses are uneasy, stepping carefully, ears flat. Finally they reach it, a lake. It's dawn, grey light, fog rolls across black water. The lake is perfectly still, like glass, like it's not water at all, but a mirror reflecting the sky. Arthur dismounts, walks to the shore. The ground is soft, muddy. His boots sink slightly with each step. What now? He asks. Now we wait, Merlin says. She knows you're here. Who knows? Merlin doesn't answer, just stares at the lake. Minutes pass. The silence is oppressive, not peaceful, heavy, like the world is holding its breath. Then, movement. In the center of the lake, the water ripples, circles spreading outward. Something is rising. An arm, pale, feminine, perfect, like it's carved from marble. In its hand, a sword. The blade catches the grey dawn light and seems to glow. The hilt is wrapped in leather. The pommel is set with a stone that might be a sapphire. It's the most beautiful weapon Arthur has ever seen. The arm rises higher, up to the elbow, the shoulder, and then a woman. She emerges from the lake like she's climbing invisible stairs. Water streams off her. Her hair is dark and wet and hangs to her waist. Her dress, if it is a dress, seems to be made of water itself. Her eyes are ancient, older than anything should be. She walks across the surface of the lake, actually walks on water, stops a few feet from shore. Arthur can't speak, can't move. "You need a sword," the woman says. Her voice sounds like water over stones, beautiful and alien. "Yes," Arthur manages. "I have a sword, Excalibur, forged in Avalon, tempered in dragon fire. It will never fail you in battle. Its edge will never dull. Its blade will never break." She holds it out. The sword gleams. Arthur reaches for it. Stops. "What do you want in return?" The woman smiles. "Clever boy, nothing is free, not even for kings." "What's the price?" "A gift for a gift I give you, Excalibur. Someday you will give me something in return, when I ask, whatever I ask." "That's not much of a bargain. You could ask for anything." "Yes," she agrees. "I could, but I won't ask for anything you can't give, and I won't ask until the time is right." Arthur hesitates. This is dangerous. A blank check to something not quite human, but he needs a weapon, needs protection. Pellinor proved that. "I accept," he says. The woman's smile widens. She extends the sword. Arthur takes it. It's lighter than it looks. Perfectly balanced. The grip fits his hand like it was made for him. Specifically for him. "The scabbard," the woman says. Arthur looks down. There's a scabbard at her waist, made of worked leather, set with silver. She unfastens it, hands it to him. "This is more valuable than the blade," she says. "While you wear this scabbard, you cannot bleed. Wounds will not kill you. You will be protected, guarded, nearly immortal." Arthur takes the scabbard. It's warm, alive. "Guard it well," the woman says. "Guard it more carefully than the sword. If you lose the scabbard, you lose your protection, and when you bleed, you will bleed until you die." "I understand. Do you?" Her ancient eyes bore into him. Men always think they understand. They never do. But you'll learn. She steps backward, into the lake, water rising around her knees, her waist, her chest. "Wait," Arthur calls. "Who are you?" "I have many names," she says. "The lady, the queen, the mother. What I am matters less than what I've given you." "Will I see you again?" "Oh yes," she says. "One more time. When you return what you've borrowed. When the sword comes back to me." "When will that be?" She smiles sadly. "When you're dying. When Britain is broken. When everything you've built is ash. Then you'll come back to this lake, and you'll give Excalibur back to me." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen it. I see all endings. Yours, most of all." She sinks beneath the water. Gone. The lake is still again, like she was never there. Arthur stands on the shore, holding a sword and scabbard, feeling like he just made a terrible mistake. "What did I just agree to?" he asks Merlin. "Survival," Merlin replies, "for a while at least." On the ride back, Arthur tests the scabbard. He deliberately cuts his hand, not deep, just enough to bleed. While wearing the scabbard, nothing, no blood. The wound seals itself instantly. He removes the scabbard, cuts his hand again. Blood flows normally. Puts the scabbard back on. The bleeding stops. "It works," he says, awed. "Of course it works," Merlin replies. "The lady doesn't deal in tricks, only bargains. And you just made a very expensive one." "What will she ask for?" "I don't know. But when she asks, you'll have to give it. That's the price of Excalibur." Arthur looks at the sword, at his reflection in the blade. Worth it, he decides. I need to survive, need to build my kingdom. Whatever she asks later, I'll deal with it then. "That's what they all say," Merlin murmurs. With Excalibur and the scabbard, Arthur becomes formidable. He can't be killed in battle, can't bleed out from wounds, can't be worn down. He fights duels, wins every time, not because he's the most skilled, because he literally can't lose, can't die. Word spreads. Arthur the Invincible. Arthur the Unkillable. Arthur who bleeds but never falls. His kingdom expands. More lords swear allegiance. More knights join his court. He's building something real, something that might last. And he forgets the lady's warning, forgets that the scabbard is more valuable than the sword, forgets that protection can be lost. He'll remember eventually, when it's too late, when he's bleeding out on a battlefield and the scabbard is gone and his son is standing over him with a sword. But that's years away. For now, Arthur is young and strong and protected. For now, he's invincible. For now. Arthur has been king for a year. His kingdom is stable. His throne is secure. He has Excalibur. He has the scabbard. He's building Camelot. Everything seems perfect. Then Merlin has a vision. He comes to Arthur's chamber in the middle of the night. His face is white, shaking. "What's wrong?" Arthur asks. "I've seen your death," Merlin says. Arthur goes cold. "When? How?" "Not when. Who?" Merlin sits heavily. "You will be killed by your own son." "I don't have a son." "Yes," Merlin says quietly. "You do." Merlin explains. 6 months ago, Arthur visited King Lot's castle. Lot was one of the rebel kings who eventually submitted. There was a feast wine, lots of wine, and a woman, King Lot's wife, Morgause, beautiful, seductive, interested in the young king. Arthur was drunk, lonely, 16 years old and carrying the weight of a kingdom. He spent the night with her. He didn't know the truth about Morgause, didn't know who she really was. Both of them were children of Bedegraine, though Arthur had never been told he couldn't have known. Morgause knew. She seduced him deliberately. She wanted to bear Arthur's child specifically because of the prophecy that a child of this forbidden bloodline would have terrible power. 9 months ago, Morgause gave birth, a boy, born on May Day, Mordred, Arthur's son, and through the twisted branches of his family tree, something far worse, a child born from a union that should never have happened. "How do you know this?" Arthur asks, his voice hollow. "I know many things," Merlin replies, "and I've seen what this child becomes. I've seen him standing over your body. I've seen Britain burning. I've seen the end of everything you're building. Where is he, this child? With Morgause still. She's raising him in secret, but he won't stay secret forever." Arthur feels sick. He slept with someone he should never have touched. fathered a child from a bloodline that should have stayed separate, just like his father. Uther conceived Arthur through deception. Arthur conceived Mordred through ignorance. Different circumstances, but the sin echoes. The cycle continues. "What do I do?" Arthur asks. "There's only one way to prevent the prophecy," Merlin says. "Kill the child, now, before he grows old enough to be dangerous." "Kill my own son?" "Kill the boy who will destroy Britain, who will murder you and everything you've built." Arthur stands, paces. "I can't. He's a baby, an innocent baby. How can I murder an innocent?" "Because that innocent will grow into a monster," Merlin says. "I've seen it. Trust me. You've been wrong before." "Not about this." Merlin's eyes are hard. "If you let Mordred live, he will kill you, Britain will fall. Everything you've suffered for, everyone who died at Bedegraine, it will all be for nothing. Mordred will undo it all." Arthur feels trapped, caught between impossible choices. Let his son live and doom his kingdom, or murder an infant to save it. "There has to be another way," Arthur says. "There isn't. The prophecy is clear. Mordred will kill you. The only question is whether you let him." Arthur thinks about his father, about Uther raping Igraine, about how Arthur himself was conceived in violence. He thinks about the Battle of Bedegraine, the 10,000 dead, the blood on his hands. He's already a killer. He's already damned. What's one more sin? "I can't kill my own son," Arthur says finally, "but I can prevent the prophecy another way." "How?" Merlin asks. "Mordred was born on May Day. You said so, but you don't know which child born on May Day is Mordred, do you?" Merlin's eyes widen. "No, I know Morgause had a child on May Day, but there were many children born that day across Britain." "Then we eliminate all of them," Arthur says. The words taste like poison. "Every child born on May Day, we find them all, and we make sure none of them can grow up to kill me." "Arthur, that's necessary," Arthur interrupts. "You said I have to prevent the prophecy. This prevents it. If all the May Day children are gone, Mordred is gone. The threat is gone." Merlin is silent for a long moment. "You understand what you're ordering? The massacre of dozens of innocents?" "Yes." "You'll be remembered for this. As a monster. As the king who murdered babies." "Then I'll be a monster," Arthur says. "But I'll be a living monster. And Britain will survive." He sends out the order that night. Across Britain, soldiers arrive at villages and towns. They carry a list. Every baby born on May Day, every infant under 6 months old born on that specific day, by order of the king, the soldiers say. The child must come with us. Mothers scream. Fathers try to fight. They're cut down or dragged away. The babies are taken, ripped from their mother's arms, crying. Some too young to even cry, just making confused sounds, reaching for mothers they'll never see again. In one village, a mother hides her baby in a cellar. The soldiers find it anyway, tear up the floorboards, grab the child. In another town, a father runs with his son, tries to escape. The soldiers ride him down, kill him, take the baby from his dead arms, again and again, across the kingdom. By the end of the week, 43 babies have been gathered, 43 infants. Some only weeks old, crying for parents who can't come. The babies are brought to the coast, loaded onto a ship, not gently, just thrown into the hold, piled together. Some are already dead, too young, too fragile.
died from exposure or fear or being separated from their mothers. The sailors are uneasy. "What are we supposed to do with them?" they ask. "Take them out to sea," the captain says. He has his orders directly from the king. "Far out, where the water is deep." "And then?" The captain doesn't answer, doesn't need to. The ship sails, fights against a building storm, wind and rain lashing the deck. In the hold, the babies cry. Those who still can. The captain waits until they're miles from shore, until the coast is just a grey line on the horizon. Then he opens the seacocks, deliberately flooding the ship. "Abandon ship!" he shouts to his crew. They take the boats, row away, leave the ship sinking behind them. In the hold, water rises, cold, black, relentless. The crying stops, one by one, until there's only silence. The ship goes down, taking 43 babies to the bottom of the sea. 43 lives ended to prevent one prophecy. But one baby doesn't drown. When the ship breaks apart, when the hull splinters and the cargo spills into the sea, one basket floats. Inside, a baby boy, crying, cold, but alive. The waves carry him. Hours pass. The storm dies down. A fishing boat finds him. Just by chance, by luck, by fate. "There's a baby here!" one fisherman shouts. They pull the basket aboard. Look at the tiny child inside, maybe 3 months old. Blue from cold, but breathing. Where did he come from? Shipwreck, maybe. Look, there's wreckage everywhere. They take him to shore, to the nearest village. Ask if anyone knows whose child this is. No one knows. No one claims him. Eventually, a woman takes him. Her own baby died last month. She has milk. She can feed him. "What's his name?" someone asks. "He doesn't have one. The sea gave him to us. We'll call him Mordred." The fishermen don't know why they choose that name. It just feels right. The baby stops crying, looks up at his new mother with dark, knowing eyes. He survived, against all odds, against the king's orders, against the massacre meant to kill him. Mordred survived, and he'll remember. When Morgause hears about the May Day Massacre, she knows immediately what happened. Arthur discovered the prophecy, tried to kill his own son, murdered dozens of babies to hide his crime. She laughs, long and bitter. "Oh, Arthur," she says, "you fool, you perfect fool." Because she knows something Arthur doesn't. She gave Mordred to another woman to raise, not to hide him from Arthur. Arthur didn't even know Mordred existed at the time. She gave him away because she wanted him raised with hate, raised with the knowledge that his father tried to murder him. And when her spies bring word that a baby boy survived the shipwreck, washed up on a beach, she knows Mordred lived. The prophecy will come true. Not despite Arthur's massacre. Because of it. Arthur gets the report. The ship sank. All the children drowned. The threat is eliminated. He should feel relieved. Safe. Protected. Instead, he feels sick. He ordered the deaths of 43 babies. 43 innocents who did nothing except be born on the wrong day. Their blood is on his hands, more blood, to add to the thousands who died at Bedegraine. It was necessary, Merlin tells him. Was it? Arthur asks. How do you know the prophecy won't find another way? How do you know we actually killed Mordred? We killed 43 children. What if he wasn't one of them? The prophecy is prevented, Merlin says. But he doesn't sound certain. Arthur wants to believe him, wants to think the massacre worked, that he murdered all those children for a reason. But late at night, when he can't sleep,
He wonders, what if Mordred survived? What if all those deaths were for nothing? What if the prophecy will come true anyway, and he's damned for nothing? He'll have his answer in 30 years. When a young man with dark, knowing eyes arrives at Camelot, when that man calls him father with venom in his voice, when that man destroys everything Arthur built, when that man drives a sword through Arthur's body while standing on a field of corpses, then Arthur will know the massacre failed. Mordred lived. The prophecy was always going to come true. You can't drown destiny. Arthur the king, Arthur the conqueror, Arthur who pulled a sword from a stone and another from a lake, Arthur who defeated rebel kings and built Camelot, Arthur who murdered 43 babies to save his kingdom, the greatest king Britain would ever know, and the worst father. Mordred was out there growing up, learning, being raised on stories of the king who tried to kill him, waiting, planning. One day he would come to Camelot, would kneel before Arthur, would smile and call him father, and Arthur, consumed by guilt, would welcome him, would try to make amends, would give Mordred everything: authority, command, trust, everything except the one thing Mordred actually wanted: revenge. But that's a story for later, for another episode. For now, Arthur is 17 years old, King of Britain, protected by Excalibur, made immortal by the scabbard, building Camelot, gathering knights, creating the Round Table. Everything seems perfect. He doesn't know he's already sowed the seeds of his own destruction. Doesn't know that the massacre failed. Doesn't know that his son survived. Doesn't know that every baby he drowned made the prophecy stronger, made Mordred's eventual revenge more certain, more justified. The wheel is turning. The cycle continues. Uther deceived and murdered to create Arthur. Arthur ordered a massacre to protect himself. Mordred will return that violence tenfold. The sins of the fathers, paid for in the blood of sons.
Let's return to that moment in the churchyard. A 15-year-old boy pulling a sword from a stone, the crowd cheering. God has chosen our king. It looked like a miracle, like destiny, like the beginning of something glorious. Now you know the truth. That boy was conceived through deception and violence, born from magical trickery, taken from his mother, raised in lies. The sword he pulled was enchanted by Merlin. A trick disguised as divine will. Theatre meant to look like God's choice. And even if God did choose him, even if the sword was genuinely magical, look at what it cost.
To secure his throne, Arthur killed 10,000 men at Bedegraine. He accepted a weapon from something not quite human, made a bargain whose price he doesn't understand, became dependent on a scabbard that makes him unkillable. He ordered the massacre of 43 babies to prevent a prophecy. And the prophecy will come true anyway, because one baby survived, his own son, Mordred, growing up somewhere, learning to hate, waiting to destroy everything Arthur builds. All of this before Arthur turned 18. The sword from the stone represented divine right, God's choice, destiny. But it broke, shattered in a duel, proved it was just metal after all. The sword from the lake, Excalibur, represents something else. Bargains with power, magic that demands payment, protection that comes with strings attached. Arthur carries Excalibur, wears the scabbard, believes he's invincible. He doesn't know that Morgan Le Fay will steal that scabbard, doesn't know that when he fights his final battle, he'll be able to bleed again, doesn't know that Mordred will be waiting.
Two swords defined Arthur's reign. The first proved his right to rule. The second kept him alive. Both will fail when he needs them most.
You know what's coming. You've been told. Arthur will build Camelot, gather the Round Table, create the greatest kingdom Britain has ever seen, and it will all fall apart. Lancelot will betray him. Guinevere will love another man. The knights will abandon their king for the Grail quest. Morgan Le Fay will steal the scabbard. The protection will fail, and Mordred will return. The baby Arthur tried to drown. The son who survived. They'll meet on a battlefield, father and son, king and heir, and they'll kill each other. Arthur will die knowing the massacre was for nothing, that he murdered 43 babies and still couldn't prevent his doom. That's all coming in future episodes. But it starts here, in this origin, in a rape, a deception, a magical sword, a slaughter, in the sins that created the king. Was there a real King Arthur? Maybe. Historians debate. There was probably a British warlord around 500 AD who fought against Saxon invaders, maybe named Arthur, maybe someone else. He probably won a major battle at a place called Baden Hill, probably held back the Saxons for a generation, but he wasn't the Arthur of legend. No Camelot, no Round Table, no Excalibur, just a warlord in a brutal age, fighting desperately to preserve Romano-British culture against Germanic invaders. He probably died violently, probably betrayed, probably left his kingdom weaker than he found it. That's the truth. But the legend is what matters. And the legend was built on this story, on Malory's version from 1485, on the tale of a boy who pulled a sword from a stone and became king, on the idea that destiny chooses leaders, that divine right exists, that some people are simply meant to rule. It's a seductive idea, especially for kings and nobles who wanted to justify their power. We rule because God chose us, like Arthur, like the sword in the stone. Never mind that Arthur's sword broke. Never mind that his kingdom fell. Never mind that he died betrayed and bleeding. The origin story is what people remember. The boy king chosen by God, not the man broken by his own sins. Every kingdom is built on violence. Every throne is purchased with blood. Arthur pulled a sword from a stone, and it cost 10,000 lives. He accepted Excalibur from a lake, and it will cost everything he loves. He ordered a massacre to save his kingdom, and that massacre guaranteed his destruction. The sins that create power are the same sins that destroy it. That's the real lesson of Arthur. Not that destiny makes kings, that violence creates violence, that every crime demands payment. Uther raped Igraine and created Arthur. Arthur massacred children and created Mordred. Mordred will murder Arthur and create nothing, just ashes and ruins and the end of a dream. The cycle only ends when the last king falls. This is Arthur's beginning, the origin of the legend, the blood beneath the crown, but the story continues. Next, Lancelot and Guinevere, the perfect knight and the beautiful queen. The love triangle that destroys a kingdom. The affair that tears the Round Table apart. The forbidden relationship that makes betrayal inevitable. Then, the Grail quest. Religious mania disguised as spiritual enlightenment. Knights abandoning their king to chase an impossible dream. The quest that destroys the fellowship. The cup that costs everything. Then, Mordred's return, the son who lived, the heir who wants revenge, the final battle between father and son, the field of corpses, the mutual destruction, the end of Camelot, and finally, Morgan Le Fay, Arthur's half-sister and eternal enemy, the sorceress who stole the scabbard, the woman who wanted Arthur dead, the revenge that spanned decades. This is just the beginning. The sword is out of the stone. The wheel is turning. The doom is coming. Arthur doesn't know it yet. He thinks he's won, thinks he's safe, thinks his kingdom will last. He'll learn. They all do. If this story affected you, if you've ever wondered what the sword in the stone actually cost, subscribe to the Midnight Archives and hit that like button. In the comments, tell me, would you have pulled the sword? Would you have accepted Excalibur from the lady? Would you have ordered the May Day Massacre? There are no right answers, only impossible choices. Arthur made his choices, and Britain drowned in blood because of them. The sword came out of the stone, and it never went back. Welcome to the Midnight Archives, where legends are born in blood, and where heroes become monsters, and where every crown is built on bones.